he would have nightmares so bad that he'd wet the bed. And if he did wet the bed, his dad would come in a drunken rage and shove his face in the urine.
If a certain behaviour is showing up, it is holding you back. That's the behaviour that's holding you back, a habit or your mindset towards something. So you do have to go back and understand where it came from, I think, and attach a different meaning to it. I've done it with clients and I've had it done to me, and it fucking works.
I can't go for that promotion, Adam. I've got imposter syndrome. Fuck off.
Yeah.
The courage to be disliked. I touched on this a few weeks ago, and we're going to go into the two theories in a little bit more detail. So we want to make it as digestible and easy to understand as we can. Basically, there's etiology and teleology. Or teleology, it's spelled like, but it's teleology and etiology.
Etiology, yeah.
The theories of Sigmund Freud and the theories of Adler, the German psychologist. So when we say Freudian and Adlerian, that's what I'm referring to. The Freudian theory is cause and effect. So if you experience something traumatic, i.e. abuse or something of that sort, that is the explanation as to why you are the way you are.
Okay, yep.
The Adlerian theory is it doesn't matter what has happened to you, it's what you're attaching to it, and you are fully in control of your own destiny, regardless of the past.
Ooh, this is going to be a great conversation, because this is about a lot of the work that we do, isn't it?
Correct. I don't want to sit on the fence, because you get splinters in your ass, way out. But I don't want to sit on the fence. However, I can understand part of each theory. I do think there's elements in the extreme of abuse and trauma and what have you that will have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
I also understand the level of personal responsibility, regardless of what's happened, that you can change.
Yep.
I do think you need to have the right support, and you do need to work through it with a specialist, though, before you get there.
Okay.
Okay, so I've dealt with some truly horrific situations. One where a guy who I was coaching is one of the youngest clients we've ever had, actually. He was 23 at the time. And he said, I'm still petrified of my dad. I do whatever my dad says. He wants me to go down this route as a career. I don't want to do that. He wanted him to do the whole corporate shtick because he did. He has a nice house. He's got nice cars. They go on nice holidays. But this guy was very creative and wanted to go down more things like content creation.
Entrepreneurship.
Kind of, yeah. Just want to own his own business, really. But around like photography and art, he loved all that. But he almost was suppressing it because of his fear of his dad. When we unpacked where that fear came from, his dad would drink heavily when he was younger. He would sometimes hit him with a belt. He would have nightmares so bad that he'd wet the bed. And if he did wet the bed, his dad would come in a drunken rage and shove his face in the urine. So you can't tell me that if you go full Adlerian theory here, that there's no cause and effect there. Like, okay, that happened to you, but how do you want to move forward? That abuse changed from the physical because he then started going to the gym when he was 14. He shot up in height. He got to about 6'2". And it got to a point where his dad is, I don't know now, maybe his dad was a bit older as well. So his dad's maybe now 60 odd, even though he's only 24. So he's a bit of an older dad. And he can't push him around anymore. But it was the emotional manipulation, or it's the emotional abuse, and it's gaslighting, and it's, you know, classic narcissistic personality disorder is what I think his dad had. And he would say things to him, you know, in what he would refer to as banter or in jest. But it just kept reaffirming the belief that he wasn't good enough and that what his dad said was gospel. Along the lines of, what the fuck are you taking pictures for Are you a puff or something?
Mm.
Horrendous. So then he'd just put his camera away and just stop. So then he'd try hide it. And everything he was doing was in the name of trying to just get his dad's validation any way that he could.
Yeah. Mm.
Now, what I said to him was, because this was when I didn't know what I couldn't do when I first started coaching. So I almost had an advantage in a sense, but I didn't want to make it more damaging for him. So I thought, I need to listen. I need to ask more questions. And I need to keep, I don't like using the phrase, but, holding the space for him to share without, feeling like he's an idiot. We unpacked it. We got into great detail, how it made him feel. And then I used the timeline therapy technique that I've sort of half learned, half used my own interpretation of healing the boy and the man will appear, going back to the moment as if you were there now.
Mm-hmm.
What did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel? And then as the grown man that he is today, approaching his younger self, what would you say to younger you? And he said, you are loved, you are enough, you are good enough. It was very emotional. He got really upset. I got a bit upset because it was a very difficult conversation, but in a freeing way as well. Like this burden that he'd carried for 18 years of his life, maybe more, or probably more, quite frankly. But he started to see a more compelling future for himself and that he was in control of his own decisions. So then we could get on to the forward thinking. Then we could get on to you didn't deserve this and you never asked for this. I like the phrase, things happen to you or they happen for you. I don't think any of this happened for him in a sense, because who the fuck would want to experience that? However, what can we take out of this? What are some positives that we can take from this? It made him more resilient.
Discipline.
It made him, it made him more compassionate. It made him made him have more empathy. He said, I will never, ever do that to my children. So he's been shown a way of how not to parent. It made him strong as fuck mentally.
Yeah.
It made him strong physically because he got in the gym and he's in great shape. So I said, would that have happened without that? I'm not so sure. Did it need to? Also, I'm not so sure, right? He could have still been resilient and been in good shape without being abused. Where the etiology, which is the Freudian theory, comes in, I agree with elements of it, but the teleology from the Adlerian theory is, where do we want to go now and how long do you want this to be your story for?
So knowing what you know now, with that exact client, if you'd taken the second option, how would you think that would have been as an effective as doing the inner work?
I still think that the inner work is absolutely imperative.
Yeah.
I still think that, rightly or wrongly, I've got the right approach to help anyone with anything. Not because I've got some form of God complex, just because I think it is about asking the right question and knowing what that person needs in that moment.
Some clients don't want to go there.
No.
They don't want to go back. So therefore, the other theory would help them potentially.
Correct. We never talk about this outwardly.
No, we don't.
And there's a reason, because it's painful as fuck.
Mm.
And a lot of men, especially, do not want to open that door. So if we were referring to healing the boy and the man will appear and how to rectify your childhood trauma or your childhood past on LinkedIn, I don't think you're going to get many people signing up for that.
Like, what the hell are you talking about?
So you sell people what they want, which is to feel better. You give them what they need, which is to rectify the challenges of the past. But it's how quickly you can get them free from that is the skill. Because I don't believe in the traditional therapy techniques that are used by some therapists, not all. If you're talking about the same problem over and over and over, I don't see that as productive.
No, I don't either.
The Adlerian theory, like every theory, is heavily criticised around certain specialists, but so is Sigmund Freud.
So do you think it's an element of both?
I think the extreme of anything is bad.
I think it depends, like, because that example you gave of that client, obviously some clients might not have had that. Their childhood might have been, fine. yeah, everything's all, all good, or whatever, the nice upbringing. There may have been the teacher that said, you're going to amount to nothing. So there was no physical abuse, but there was mental abuse in terms of name calling, that sort of thing. Where I wanted to use it was I wanted to understand the behavior in present day. Why do I do what I do in present day? So I think that's where, if you want to understand it, that's where it can be helpful. If a certain behavior is showing up, it is holding you back. That's the behavior that's holding you back, a habit or your mindset towards something. So you do have to go back and understand where it came from, I think, and attach a different meaning to it. Yeah, I know, because I've done it. I've done it with clients and I've had it done to me and it fucking works. But I think equally what's important is we've done that now, right? Who do you want to become?
Correct.
Exactly. What goals are we going to work towards? What are we working towards?
Where possible, it's almost forgetting everything that's gone before. It's all about future casting when you get to that level. As you alluded to there, that phrase, who are you becoming? Never stop becoming. Who's the man that you want to become? Whatever vernacular you want to use. But it's not that I'm not interested in what's happened before, because obviously we do get to that. Right, okay, that explains that. Okay, how long, again, do you want that to define you for? Because, so there's two examples I'm going to give here. I've worked with somebody that was sexually assaulted when they were younger, and they've attempted suicide 3 times, and they eventually were, after working with, we referred them to somebody else. They were sectioned, and they're still really going through a lot of challenges right now, even though they're working with a psychologist and a psychotherapist and round-the-clock care. I know somebody else that was sexually assaulted, and they've gone on to set up a foundation to help other victims. Now, I'm not to say that number 1 is wrong and number 2 is right. What I will say, and I'm going to the extreme example here, because I figure if we use that, then the fact that a teacher said you won't amount to anything is probably a bit of perspective for people. It was what they made it mean to them. One person saw it as the end, one person saw it as the beginning.
Yes, and I also think you could throw in the happiness hypothesis here into this. So your fulfillment, when I say happiness, I mean your contentment, your fulfillment is made up of, because Buddha said it was all internal, but that's been busted, that it's not all internal. So I can't remember the exact figures, so I may need to put them in the show notes, but it's something like, I think it's like 49 or 50% is your thoughts and your beliefs. This is to do with your fulfillment, how you're thinking. 40% is your genetics, and 10% is like external things, like your family, your living situation, where you live. That's only just makes up 10%. So if you imagine, the genetics plays a massive part here. And what we know, with what we offer our clients with the DNA testing, what we can find out in someone's DNA, how well they produce serotonin down to their genes, are they someone who chases dopamine a lot? Because we can see this in the DNA. Then we really get to know, not their personality, but potentially why they do the behaviors that they do. It's down at gene level. This is going right down to genetics. This is thoughts and labels and beliefs all to one side. So could it be the 2 examples you gave there? If we ran, I'd be really interested if we ran a DNA on both of them, because I'd love to see what would show up in both. Is it because the person who didn't take action, I suspect their genes for like the happiness hormone, for serotonin, they were all quite low, I suspect. I'm judging, but sure. I don't know. I reckon it'll be an interesting set of results.
Yeah. Environment as well.
Of course, and you've got to take that into account. What's going on with a divorce, with what's the living situation, everything, what's happening in
There's
that
a lot of, don't get me wrong, I'm not making this as blanket as person one was assaulted, person two was assaulted. They chose to focus on, negative. They chose to focus on positive. There's a whole myriad of reasons as to why people, of course, but a lot of it does come down to thought. Then it comes to label. Then it comes to belief. Then you take your actions and then you get your results off the back of it. That is a very high percentage, as you alluded to there. Now, some people will say, well, my teacher spoke to me like shit and they said that I was never going to amount to anything, so that's why I'll never get promoted, or that's why my business is going to fail.
That teacher, fuck him, that's great, let's go.
That teacher 30 years ago might have had a really bad day, and you playing up at the time just pushed them over the edge and they snapped, and they probably forgot about it. And in some cases, they might be dead. So you're hanging on the words of what someone that may have passed, or maybe in an older people's home, being fed fucking soup by a nurse. And you're saying that that person who said one comment is the reason why you're failing. No. Sorry. No. That's incorrect.
Do you think intellectually they know at that point that was that? Do they know why they're failing? Are they still blaming the teacher?
Some do, but it's because then they're more familiar with feeling like shit and looking at blaming someone else.
Yeah, so they're in victim mind.
Yeah, so there's no responsibility.
No.
Because what's really interesting in the book is some people's goal is to feel like shit. So then they use labels, and the labels they use are really fashionable. I'm just a perfectionist. So they don't take action. And they don't hit the deadline, and their colleague does a better presentation. Oh, I just didn't get it in on time because I'm a perfectionist. No, you've got low self-esteem.
Yeah.
I can't go for that promotion, Adam. I've got imposter syndrome. Fuck off.
Yeah.
It's not a syndrome. This was a term coined in the 80s, imposter syndrome, by two psychologists. Again, a theory.
Poor way of thinking.
Yeah, but I suffer with, or I've got imposter syndrome. Okay, that's just a reason not to take action again. But as long as you're saying that, I've got imposter syndrome, I can't possibly. Your friends and your family might go, no, you're amazing, you're wonderful. So you get the validation.
You get the rescuing.
Yeah. So they can play the role as the rescuer to tell you how amazing you are. You get to play the victim still. No one wins. The person that's air quote helping you is inadvertently keeping you in victimhood. So they're not helping whatsoever. You'd be better off not saying anything or asking more questions or challenging in a healthy way. Oh, I've just got imposter syndrome. There's no way I can go for that role. I'm no good at my job. No good at your job. What makes you say that? Well, I don't know really. Like, Dave's got way more confidence than me. What does confidence mean to you? Well, he just holds a room better and he articulates very well. Okay, so he has good body language and he can articulate his points well. Does that mean he's more confident than you? What does it mean he's louder? What does it mean that he's a better communicator? Does it mean that he's overall more confident? Dave might have a complex himself and he might feel that he needs to express himself loudly to heal the insecurity. So no matter what your goal is deep down, you'll hit it. If your goal is to feel shit about yourself, you'll go on a weight loss journey, you'll lose 10 pounds and you've set a target of 20 and you're doing really well and you're not drinking and you're not having any takeout and you're going to the gym. But then guess what? Your friend says, should we go to the pub? And you end up having a drink and you end up having 6 and you wake up hanging out your ass. Then you have a McDonald's breakfast and you don't go to the gym and you don't go out with your kids and your wife. And then you go, oh, I've just self-sabotaged again, Adam. No, you've hit your goal of feeling like shit because it's so familiar. You started to feel good and you're going, this is weird. I don't like feeling good. I'm going to fuck this up. And then I'm going to label it self-sabotage. That's quite sexy.
Oh, yeah.
Painful.
Yeah, painful. That was the word I was thinking of. Painful.
And I don't mean painful like, oh, fucking dickhead. I mean, that sounds really painful. It's exhausting. I've done it. I've worn the t-shirt.
So applying the first theory to that, I think I know where it's going, but so someone who's doing the self-sabotaging piece, Where would that behavior come from back in childhood?
It could be a number of things. It could be that you didn't have to make much effort at school and your sibling did, and they studied really hard, but regardless, you just nailed the exams. So some people might want to not make their sibling look bad.
Okay, yeah.
Some people, when they get an A at geography, their mum goes, why don't you get an A star? So they'll never feel the achievement's good enough anyway. So they won't want to almost keep pushing because they're fearful.
Yeah.
It could be that, again, the teacher says that great potential, but they're never going to fulfill it. So anything you do, you won't feel like you're fulfilling your potential.
Oh, that's awful.
So it could be a series of things. It might be that you really crave the love of your mum. Your mum has an anxious disposition because of the way that she was mothered by her mum. You then crave the love of your mum more because you didn't get it. So you tend to match and mirror her behaviour, which is to be anxious, which is to not be happy, which is to stress about things, which you don't want to break
which is people pleasing.
So then you please others at the expense of yourself.
Yeah.
There's loads of things, but I would say those are some of the most common ones. It's why people won't leave certain friendship circles, or why they won't push themselves because of what people are going to think. I literally had a similar challenge in the gym yesterday. So it's a semi-private PT class that I go to. It's for 1 hour and it's usually 6 exercises on the strength workout that we did. And it's, 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps, whatever. And you have to go in pairs, but there was an odd number. So I was like, I'll go on my own. It's fine. The way I train, usually, it's at the same gym, but the workouts I love are like circuits. Work point to point to point to point to point. You're always moving, no rest. So I incorporated as much of that as I could. And I was finished with 20 minutes to go. And I thought, if I go on the rower now, and if I add 20 minutes to my workout, are people going to think that I'm a bit up myself? Are people going to think I'm a bit... And I had the thought, and I was like, no, just don't bother. Just go stretch for 20 minutes. Or just leave, or just go home. I was like, no. The courage to be disliked means that I need to do what I want to do here. I'm not causing anyone else any problems. It's quite a big space. I'm away from everybody.
Yeah.
If they want to look over and judge me for doing extra work because it's making them look bad, this is the thought I had. That's on them.
That's on them. It's not on you.
I can't control that. Because what might happen, which did happen, was one of the guys joined in. He'd finished at 10-2. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? I said, I'm just doing like 10 rounds of row, 500 meters, jump off, do 10 ball slams, do 10 burpees, back on. Because I've got 20 minutes, so I'm just going to fly through it as quickly as I can. And he's like, all right, cool. I just did as many rounds as I could. That was the target. And then he just joined in. He's like, oh, I'm glad I did that. So I'm like, oh. 2 other people like, oh, bloody hell, were taking the piss, but they were saying it outwardly like, oh, who do you think he is over there? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's just your insecurity spilling out of you. And then 3 or 4 other people didn't say shit, so that's fine.
Yeah.
So it still shows up for us. It certainly shows up for me of going, should I do that? Because if I do that, my friend might think, or my brother might say, or my business partner might think, and I'm just like, no, I just need to do it.
Just do it. That happens in the box I go to. So not often, but there could be like 15 minutes left in the workout. So it's for time. It's a for time workout, And some people in their pairs, you go, I go, whatever, may finish. Geez, you've got 15 minutes left. They just carry on. So I've done that before as well. So whatever the workout was, they just carry on doing it. Yeah, just get a few more rounds in. Why not?
What's the sort of reaction to it? Is there one?
When I saw a couple of guys do it, I was like, oh, another more round. But then I thought, oh, they're training for high rocks. So they're pushing themselves even further. I was like, good, awesome. Yeah. Nice work. Yeah, that's how I looked at it. They've got a comp in like 3 weeks' time. So they're getting extra training in. Why not?
So I'm going to rattle through these very quickly.
Yeah.
The 5 points that I took away from the book. and this is really about the teleology approach, the Adlerian theory. Okay. So, but the ones that I agree with, the past does not determine your future.
I agree.
You have the power of choice always.
Yes.
The role of meaning, which basically the way you interpret life events and how you assign meaning to them, can shape your behavior.
Yeah.
The goal of life. So, in the book, the goal of life is not happiness or success in a conventional sense, but contribution to others. The ability to live cooperatively with others and contribute to society. By doing so, you move away from focusing on past wounds and instead direct your energy towards purposeful living. I really like that one because we know it's one of the 6 human needs to contribute.
But yeah, it is part of that.
And when I think about the 2 examples of the women that I gave earlier, the second one who has set up a foundation, she's recycled her pain to help others.
Yeah, she turned a mess into a message.
I think that's the biggest sign of human strength that there is, that if you've gone through a really shit time and you have taken all of those harsh lessons and then gone, you know what, I'm going to help others. Fair play to you.
Fair play. Yeah, I think it is. The first, in fact, all of them, but definitely the first 3 are very Buddhist and Stoic.
Yeah, because you said when you were studying whether to read the book or not, you doing your research, should I say, you said there was a lot of alignment with Stoic philosophy.
There is,
which there is.
Yeah, it just doesn't directly reference it.
Correct.
Yeah, like the reason choice. That's a very Epictetus.
Yeah.
The first one. What was the first one?
The past does not determine the future.
Yeah, that's very.
Yeah. And the last one is self-reliance and self-responsibility. When I think of the word responsibility, I think of your ability to respond. I break down the word. And it's how well you can respond to things.
In your environment and to yourself.
We won at football last night, and the team we were playing were better than us on paper. The game's not played on paper, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But I said to them all before, we have to work harder than them, and that's how we're going to win. We have to fight for every ball. Off the ball, we have to be fucking savages, basically. If you lose the ball, don't sulk. Because that's what you see some people do. They run forward, they try to play a pass, and they throw their arms up in the air and they turn their back on the play. And they're like, oh no, because they're annoyed at themselves. Fuck you and your ego. If you lose the ball, be like a dog, get it back.
Get it back, yeah.
Because the moment you've turned around and thrown your hands up in the air, they've gone past you. Yeah. If you lose it, adjust your body position and get it back. And we did that. It's not, again, I'm not suggesting it's because of what I said to them, far from it, but it was an element because some of the people before the game were like, oh, we're not going to win this. I was like, well, look, whether we do or whether we don't, it's just a group of mates. It's not like we're playing fucking 11 aside in the Premier League. Come on. We're all mates here. But the teams that were picked were a bit one-sided, but we ended up smashing them because our attitude was better. So don't sulk. And that's your ability to respond. You've got a responsibility now to get that fucking ball back because you lost it. Don't be throwing your arms up in the air and fucking moaning about it. Get on with it.
Yeah, it's done.
It's gone.
It's happened.
That's it. So that's more of a pod led by me. Next week, we're going to be talking to Mayhew about his recent learnings from his meditation teacher course, which I'm really excited to hear more about. But for now, thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.